Situation analysis is an approach for breaking complex situations into actionable next steps and tracking results. Situation analysis is a fundamental skill for managing complexity, for aligning teams, for accelerating learning, and for increasing efficiency. In a situation analysis, you make all of your concerns and opportunities visible. You can set priorities among those, and this is great because it helps get your thoughts clear and get everybody you're working with on the same page. On a scale of 1 to 5, consider how effective you are or your team is at taking action to resolve big, complex, ambiguous issues. A 1 would be not effective, a 5 would be very effective, and a 3 would be sometimes effective. If you or your team is at a 4 or less, situation analysis is a tool that you should probably adopt and would probably really help you to move forward in a more effective way. If you have answered less than a 4, take a moment to consider what it would take for you to be a 5. Situation analysis consists of 5 basic steps. Identify concerns, separate and prioritize concerns, identify next steps, clarify roles, and track results. Now what we're going to do is look at each of these steps, the sub-steps, and go through an example. The first step, identify concerns, has the purpose of making the scope of a situation visible. The first thing you do is you choose a focus area, for example, a recent performance report or some important topic. Then you brainstorm concerns and opportunities around or within that focus area. And then for each concern or opportunity, you list critical questions. And these are the vital few questions that need to be resolved in order to resolve or address a given concern or opportunity. So what you see here is a focus area has been chosen, in this case, strategic business performance review. And now what you see is concerns and opportunities are being listed around that focus area in a big brainstormed list. Now each concern or opportunity is being broken down into specific questions. Notice the style here is to be very specific and succinct, either in the description of a concern or opportunity or in the questions to be answered around that opportunity. The other purpose here, and this will come further in the process, is when you list a question, you want to list the question in a way that it is in fact actionable. In other words, that it leads to a logical next step. And that'll become clearer as we go through the rest of the process. The second major step is to separate and prioritize. The idea is to organize your concerns and opportunities. Sometimes you'll have a long list, and by grouping that list, you can make it simpler, and you can really begin to get organized around a complex situation. It consists of 3 steps: group, prioritize, and edit. The first step, group, you take all your concerns and opportunities and you group them by topic areas. The second step is to prioritize. And what you do is you prioritize the critical questions within a given topic area by asking 3 questions. In other words, looking at 3 dimensions of them. The seriousness of the impact of the question, the urgency or sequence within which it needs to be resolved, and the speed of growth or trend around it. In other words, is this an issue or a concern that's getting worse over time, going to stay stable, going to get better? And by assigning these priorities, you can by looking at these 3 dimensions, you can sort through overall priorities. Once you've prioritized, you can eliminate duplicate concerns, opportunities, and questions. Now for the example. What you see here is the topic areas being added, and then the concerns or opportunities have been resorted underneath those topic areas. Next, you see seriousness, urgency, and growth being considered. What is happening here is the highs are being put in first. So those issues that are most serious, most urgent, and growing most quickly are being recognized first, and then the mediums and lows are added in. If you do it in this order, it's often easier to set priorities. Now, if you have an issue that is serious, urgent, and growing, it would get an HHH, and that would clearly be the highest priority type of issue, versus, say, an LLL, which would be the lowest, and somewhere in the middle would be all the other alternatives, things like HML, and so on. But this gives you a way to begin to sort through and prioritize any question within any concern or opportunity within any topic area. Then you go to edit, and what you see is these lines have just been added. One of the comments has been struck out because it was redundant, and then the bottom comment where it said teenager tastes are changing is in fact moved into a question because that's a better way to express it. The idea is to get rid of any duplicates and to have everything be very clear and all of the concerns to be separate from each other and distinct. The next step is to identify next steps. The idea here is to identify solutions or protocols that will resolve a given question within a concern. There are three ways to resolve a question. One is to do an analysis, you analyze it. The second is to align, that would be to meet with key stakeholders or individuals to come to some sort of an agreement. The third option is to act, to actually take action against it. When you analyze, you can find causes, you can do a decision analysis, which is actually laying out relative the weight, the criteria that will be used to make a decision and the types of alternatives and how those alternatives do against the criteria. You can do a situation analysis, which is this process, except you would do it focused on a specific question. You could actually draft a protocol or plan to go forward. When you align with key stakeholders, you could get together and make specific requests of them or recommendations. You would either commit or decline, or they would either commit or decline your requests. You could work with them to resolve breakdowns. You could coach, or you could manage conflict with them or escalate conflict. That would be bring in some mechanism to resolve conflict. The third option is to act, which would be just to do it or disengage. So what you see in the next example is for each next step, for each question, a next step is being written in. Now we move on to the fourth step. The fourth step in situation analysis is to clarify roles. And the goal here is to choose the fewest number of people required for quality and speed against any next step. So you're going to ask who's responsible for the next step, who needs to provide input into the next step, and what's the mechanism for final call. In other words, how is final resolution going to be reached? What you see here is the initials of the people who will be participating in each of those three roles have been written in. Now, one person could play all three roles, but very often on teams, some team members may be the ones providing input, someone else might be responsible, and say the team leader might be responsible for having final call. And then the final step in situation analysis is to set things up so you can track results. So what you do is for each next step, you agree on a due date. And when that next step has been completed, you're actually going to check it off the list. So what you see here is due dates are being added, and then things are being marked as completed. So situation analysis has 5 basic steps. The first step is to identify concerns. You choose a focus area, brainstorm around that area, and then list questions. The second step is to separate and prioritize concerns. You group the concerns, you prioritize them, and then you edit out any duplicates. The third step is to identify next steps. And there are basically 3 kinds of next steps. You can do an analysis, You can get together and align around what you're going to do next, or you could, in fact, take action. The fourth thing is to clarify roles. Who's responsible? Who has input? What's the mechanism for final call? And finally, you want to assign a due date to each next step and check it off when it's completed.